Our next speaker is Dr. Ritika Sachdev, a dynamic young ophthalmologist who's the Additional Director of Medical Services of the Center for Sight Group of Hospitals, a specialist in cataract, cornea, and refractive, and she's going to show us another brilliant pearl. On to you, Ritika.
Thank you, Dr. Chitra, for this opportunity. I'll just be showing a simple complication post-cataract surgery. We need a pristine cornea post-cataract surgery, and the Descemet's detachment really annuls the visual outcome of any well-done cataract surgery. Fortunately, the incidence is low, 0.5 to 1% is the incidence that is reported. However, we need to be careful with our instrumentation entry and even points like hydrating at the end. Now, often we deal with smaller Descemet's detachments, which are planar, which fortunately can be left if they are in the periphery. Larger, more central detachments with a larger height or detachment from the posterior stroma needs to be surgically managed. I'm just showing a short video of a case. This is a long-standing detachment operated elsewhere. You can see nearly half the cornea is fully edematous. What really is the highlight of this video is the parallel use of the microscope integrated ASOCT, which demonstrates the effectiveness of a simple air bubble. It would be wise to consider using a peribulbar anesthesia if the patient is uncooperative. If the patient is cooperative, topical anesthesia works well. Long-standing gas like SF6 or C3F8 should be used in cases with long-standing detachments, rebubbling, or patients who have an inferior detachment, because remember, an inferior tamponade is tougher to create. This is a long-standing detachment, so we are using SF6 or C3F8. Any of the options are available, isoexpansile forms. Ideally, you should enter from a place where the Descemet's is attached and should avoid fish egging. But we have the anterior segment OCT, so we are able to guide in the needle well here. The bubbles must coalesce. An important tip to prevent fish egging is to make sure that your cannula does not have any saline. You see here, I'll just move back to show that this is a scrolled up Descemet's membrane. You can see the clefts, and you see that as you move this grid across, you will be able to see that the Descemet's has to approximate the posterior stroma completely. So this grid is being moved across to be sure that the Descemet's is actually coming in contact with the posterior stroma. Another important use of the OCT is that you can see that at the area of the largest detachment, you can often do venting incisions. And this is a good guide to create the venting incision. So you see here that there is a complete attachment of the Descemet's that has happened. We keep the air tamponade for some time and then decompress the anterior chamber. At the time of decompression, again, the anterior segment OCT, which is microscope integrated, allows us to see that the Descemet's continues to be attached. I like to do a paracentesis before putting the air bubble and allow some egress of the aqueous to not have the intraocular pressure go so high. And that is the reason a paracentesis site is a good idea rather than simply entering with a 26 or a 30 gauge needle. So this is the end of the surgery, and this patient can be taken up on the OCT. This is the pre-op. You see a scrolled up Descemet's, and this is the pre-descemetopexy video. And this is 1 week post-op. Even a long-standing detachment often attaches very well if bubbled well. And so all in all, an anterior segment OCT gives you a great guide to see the extent of the detachment and to see how well it is attaching and give you a surgical endpoint on the table. I do prefer to use peribulbar block in these patients. Remember, all non-planar inferior detachments with poor endothelial functions and rebubbling need long-acting gases. A paracentesis pre-injection is recommended. Enter from the sites of the attached DM. If you can't visualize, you can use endo-illuminators or trypan blue. And optional thing of venting incisions or nylon sutures can be done if you're having repeated failures. Fortunately, the success ratio is higher than 75%, and these patients often do very well. Thank you for your attention.
That was a wonderful presentation. You answered all the questions which I had prepared to harass you. But anyway, yeah, the thing which I wanted to ask you is, would you think of doing a PI in these cases if you have decided to use a C3F8 gas?
There are reports of an inferior PI often done. I don't usually do an inferior PI. That one of the reasons is that we do decompress on table, and I do have some egress of the aqueous to create the space for the air bubble, and we use the isoexpansile concentration. So I usually don't do an inferior PI, but it has been done, and depends on the surgeon's preference.
So the other thing is, you talked about venting incisions. I do understand that, if you see a fluid collection there or a viscoelastic or something which is there, then it makes sense to do a venting incision. But that in itself comes with a problem that you have to be very conscious that you can have an epithelial ingrowth happening in and around that region. So is actually venting incision just a theoretical possibility, or is it actually being done for DM detachments? I know it is being done for the cornea-based procedures.
It is actually Dr. Susan Jacob has classified DM detachments, and bullous detachments is where she has recommended the use. I haven't done venting incisions for Descemet's detachments. We've routinely done them for our DSEC cases initially. But now we've even stopped doing them for DSEC DMEC cases. But if you have a microscope integrated OCT, it gives you a great guide so that you're able to understand the maximum height, and you're able to see intra-op that if the Descemet's is not attaching in a particular place which has a high height, and you can often see a translucency in that area, which means there's a collection of some fluid. Then a venting incision may be useful, and it should be done ideally in the, with access to instrumentation like this, making it much, much safer.
Yes.
I would not do it in any case of primary rebubbling. It's only absolutely when you know that there is some fluid which is preventing the attachment and you're rebubbling.
I think it covers it all. Dr. Shahbaz, you want to add anything because you're the other cornea guy here? And yes, Gaurav, you wanted to say?
Let Dr. Shahbaz talk first.
Yes, Shahbaz.
He's muted.
Oh, you have to unmute yourself.
Inferior PIs are important, madam, because even if we use non-expansile gas, then also because of the pupillary block, some cases we've seen a lot of uveitis occurs in that. So definitely will use an inferior PI because we usually do. I don't remove air bubble, but I do inferior PI and admit the patient for a day. Maybe some.
Even, I think if you're doing it, even the positioning of the patient also becomes important, no? Like you keep them supine. If it's an inferior detachment, you keep them a little head and lifted up. Those things you suggest, or these are again theoretical discussions? Shahbaz, I'm asking you.
Yeah, position is not very important, madam. Once you are doing an inferior PI, the position doesn't matter at all, because the people get blocked, because the people block the iris Bombay occurs, and then the
PI and the positioning are for two different reasons. Positioning, I wanted that bubble to ensure that it keeps the DM attached to the cornea. For that I meant. Positioning of the patient, is it being done after Ritika? What do you say? Ritika?
It is being done. I mean, we maintain the same position even after endothelial keratoplasty and DMD. It is being done. You want the air bubble to obviously levitate the DM up.
Yes.
Ma'am, I wanted to just add two things because Ritika showed everything so well. One is that the inferior detachments are more difficult. So, we've had, instances of two cases over the last 5-10 years where we had to kind of, persist with the inferior detachments. And that's where I've used the venting incisions, and they work very well, because when we did it for the second time and, it attached for some time and then detached again, then the venting incision actually worked because it was an inferior detachment which would not settle down. Second thing is that one has to be very careful that what caused the DMD. In one of our cases, our glaucoma surgeon was operating, and through the side port, she pushed in viscoelastic, which caused the DMD. Now, if there's visco trapped behind the Descemet's, it will not settle down, do what you want, because till you have got that viscoelastic out. So one of our persistent DMDs was because of retained viscoelastic, and we did a bubbling and everything, and it settled on table, but it would not stay there because the viscoelastic was blocking. There again, the venting incision helped, because then after venting incisions, we did the bubble, and then after that, we were able to get a better kind of this thing. But it's very tricky, and I mean, this is all the experience I have, just about a handful of cases.
So, Dr. Chitra, I just wish to say that the take-home message from this is that we should all try the reattachment of the descent, because this patient came to me more than a month old, and the patient is today 6'9".
Yes.
So if you look at the patient, what the patient was earlier, and it had a huge, and the patient unfortunately was not diagnosed at the primary place where the surgery was done.
Yes.
And a simple anterior segment OCT, if they would have done, that would have shown them that it was a DMD. So whenever we have corneal edema, which is disproportionate to what we have expected, we always put the patient, even if it is day 1, day 2, whatever, we put the patient on the OCT to see whether there's a DMD or not. And the anterior segment OPD OCT gives you a beautiful picture whether there's a DMD or not. And as Gaurav was saying, if there is a long standing or if there is something like visco, you try to remove it. But this is where the expansile gases come into this thing. A 1 day post-op DMD, you can just do air, depending upon if it's not very large, etc. But if you're dealing, like in this particular case, we had more than a month the patient had, and there was enough amount of corneal edema and all, we prefer to go in with an expansile gas, and the visual recovery has been fantastic in this particular case.
Yes, wonderful.